When I think of the word cybercrime, I think about a movie scene in which a hacker rapidly taps on a computer keyboard to bring down the security system of a bank in a major heist. But cybercrime encompasses much more than that. The definition of a cybercrime is a criminal activity carried out by means of computers or the internet, and it can generally be divided into two categories. The first being crimes that target networks or devices, and the second being crimes that use devices to participate in criminal activities. In other words, the first is committing crimes by attacking networks or devices, while the second only uses devices to perform crimes. Common cybercrimes include distributed denial of service attacks, which are a malicious attempt to disrupt normal traffic of a targeted server. Identity theft, which is the fraudulent acquisition and use of a person's private identifying information. Cyberstalking, which is the repeated use of electronic communications to harass or frighten someone. And malware viruses. Other common cybercrimes include potentially unwanted programs, or PUPs, which may compromise one's privacy. Phishing, which is the fraudulent practice of sending emails purporting to be someone they are not in order to induce individuals to reveal personal information, and the posting of prohibited or illegal content. With the interconnectedness of the modern world, anyone can be the victim of cybercrime, which does not only pose legal concerns but ethical ones as well. Invading someone's privacy or stealing private information is never ethical, but what about hacking that exposes wrongdoing or fraudulent activities, as many so-called hacktivists do? Is there a gray area in some cybercrimes, and where should the line be drawn?
Now that we have discussed all the different types of cybercrime, let's look at some notable headlines. For example, UK Cybersecurity Agency investigates DNS hijacking, or that China denies involvement in the Equifax hack, or Visa card vulnerabilities enable contactless limit bypass, and more notably, the 2014 Sony hack. On November 25th, a new chapter was added to the Chronicles of Data Theft activity. A group calling itself the Guardians of Peace hacked their way into Sony Pictures, leaving the Sony network crippled for days. While politically motivated attacks and theft of intellectual property is nothing new, this incident certainly stands out for several reasons. First, via a link, the group released a package and links to torrent files hosted on 4 sites consisting of 26 parts, broken out into 25 1GB files and one 894MB RAR file. In order to better understand the breach and ramifications, a news outlet reached out to the Guardians of Peace and asked for more information. During the brief email conversation, they stated that additional data leaks were forthcoming and that they had obtained over a dozen terabytes of data from various Sony servers. A few days after the initial breach report was announced, 4 torrent links were published to torrent trackers that contained unreleased movies from Sony obtained by the Guardians of Peace during the attack. When a member of Guardians of Peace was asked how they broke into Sony, the response was that Sony left their doors unlocked and it bit them. They don't do physical security anymore, which means Sony doesn't lock their doors to their buildings. So then we worked with other staff with similar interests to get in. The hackers reportedly stole a key password from someone in IT, which gave them broad access to Sony's computer systems. Once on the network, they planted the malware. The 2014 Sony hack illustrates that international law developed for a completely different time is no longer adequate or effective. It presents new challenges for international law, particularly in defining sovereignty and state responsibility, and determining the right to legitimately take effective countermeasures, including invoking the right to self-defense. Obama also issued a legislative proposal to Congress to update current laws such as the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act and introduce new ones to allow federal and national law enforcement officials to better respond to cybercrimes like the Sony attack and to be able to prosecute such crimes compatible to similar offline crimes while protecting the privacy of Americans.
There are 5 big problems with cybercrime. The first one being scale. There are estimated to be just over 2 billion people connected to the internet. The sheer number of people online provides an unprecedented pool of potential offenders and victims. The second is accessibility. Technology continues to increase in most countries, ensuring its availability to both offenders and victims and malicious actors for hire. The third problem is anonymity. Anonymity is an obvious advantage to the offender, and digital technology facilitates this big time. The fourth, portability and transferability. Storage and processing power, which would have once occupied entire rooms, will now fit into a pocket. The huge volume of sensitive data stored electronically makes the devices themselves vulnerable to attack. And the fifth is global reach. As individuals may now communicate overseas as easily as next door, offenders may be present and cause harm anywhere there is internet connection. Not only does this provide literally a world of opportunity for offenders, it presents enormous challenges to law enforcement. Looking deeper into cybercrime has indirect costs that are very substantial. Owners of infected PCs may have to spend hundreds of dollars, and the cost of antivirus is insane for both businesses and individuals. And lastly, the big impacts of cybercrime. Well, there are a few, including privacy and data protection, cyber organized crime, hacktivism, and more.
One major impact of cybercrime is the encryption of private information. Companies now have an obligation to work harder to encrypt your information from outside hackers. Why is this a new thing? It's because of Ashley Madison data breach in 2015, the Equifax data breach in 2017, and many other data breaches. Another impact is the introduction of HTTPS as a standard. So for example, Firefox no longer supports websites that don't use HTTPS, and HTTPS is just a more secure way to transmit your user data between the web server and your browser. Other browsers like Google will be following suit soon. What can you do to protect yourself? You can 1, be more vigilant when browsing websites. 2, flag or report suspicious emails. 3, never click on unfamiliar links. 4, use a VPN. 5, ensure websites are safe before entering any of your credentials. 6, keep antivirus applications up to date. And 7, use a strong password. Why we recommend a VPN? It's important because it's the best middleman you can have between you and the internet. People outside won't be able to get to your information as long as you have a VPN. Today we covered what cybercrime is, the types of cybercrime, the examples of cybercrime, the impact cybercrime has, and how to protect yourself using cybersecurity. Thank you.